So my name is Louisa Wilcox, and I work with the Natural Resources Defense Council in Livingston, Montana. And I'm here care of the Western Sustainability Exchange at a beautiful ranch, the J. at the very northern end of the Centennial Valley. The Centennial Mountains are off to the south here, and they're one of the last and most important remaining corridors that the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem has to other wildland intact ecosystems. So we're really blessed to be in a really wild and remote part of the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem in the company of bears, which we've seen, and antelope and moose and trumpeter swans yesterday, and sage grouse, and incredible biodiversity here that's still here intact. By virtue of the care of the ranch owners and managers here, as well as adjacent landowners and the federal government in the form of Red Rock Lakes. What's really come home to me, really what I've learned, is from these ranch managers here at the J. is that it's very possible and practical to manage a ranch sustainably in a way that's healthy for the soil, that's healthy for the grass, healthy for people, healthy for the ecosystems, healthy for the biodiversity, the richness of wildlife that's here. It's not some fantastical pie-in-the-sky impossibility, oh, it would be nice to have sustainable ranching. It's actually possible, it's actually practical, and it's actually happening. And I think that what is happening here is a model for what could be applied and should be applied elsewhere in this really precious ecosystem which we call Greater Yellowstone. So it's a work in progress. The ranch managers are very open to experimenting, and they're very curious about how the land responds to different kind of management practices. They're taking detailed notes and monitoring, so they're learning as they go and making changes, and every year is different. I think what I've gotten a lot of is a sense of deep commitment. You've got to be committed to being out here in this remote landscape and doing things differently. You've got to be committed to a sustainable way of life. And the people here at J. and Western Sustainability Exchange are all deeply committed to providing a vision that's not impossible to achieve, but is practical for how to live sustainably. And it's just a blessing to be in this place. We in the West need a different kind of story. The story that's driven the development of the West and the extirpation of thousands of species and thousands of buffalo and bears and wolves was a story of manifest destiny, that we've got to push wild nature away and dominate wild nature and kill it if it gets in the way, and plow up the soil and bring along civilization behind us. That was the story that settled the West. And I think it's time for a new story. It's long overdue to have a new story. And I think what's happening here with the J. and what Western Sustainability Exchange is trying to do is tell a new story. And that new story is not domination of nature, but working with and living with nature. It's a story of honoring the interdependence of all the parts of nature, of the soil insects, of the many thousands of pounds of insects underneath in and underneath the soil here. From the insects underneath the soil to the birds high in the sky, and we saw bald eagles and Swainson's hawk and Harris hawk yesterday. Really wonderful, wonderful experiences. And we saw all the pieces in between, and we saw how the ranch and the working of the ranch and the working of the management of the ranch fit in a very respectful way of all the pieces, that recognizes that we humans are not alone. We're not outside of nature. We're not here to dominate nature and control it and kill it. We're here to work with it in a respectful and humane way. And it shows in the animals that are here and the wildlife commingling. We saw antelope grazing out with the cows. It shows in the wildlife that we saw. It shows in the people's faces that they deeply revere this place, and they want to take care of it, and they want to make sure that future generations understand what wild nature can be. And they're very self-conscious of their role in a new narrative about living in the West differently. And I hope this narrative sticks and catches on, because we need it desperately for it to survive as a civilization, as a society, as a culture who cares about living in the West.